everybody! It has been a whirlwind of a start to the year for the Sausage King. I was out of the country, then I was out of electricity, and then out of state, but I'm finally back home in Kielbasa Corner, where today I'm making a beautiful sausage that some of you have been asking for a while now. I'm making this traditional Cajun Andouille that everyone's gonna love. So let's get started. Let's get started with the meat, and this is going to be an all pork sausage, so it's nice and simple. Just get yourself a nice big pork butt or pork shoulder, whichever you like to call it, and that's going to be right around 20 to 25% fat content, and that's all you're going to need for this one. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is to separate the fattiest parts from the leaner parts, because I'm going to be doing two different grinds on this sausage. The fatty bits are going to be ground much finer than the lean bits, so I'm going to have some nice big chunks of pork in there. So I'll just take off the fat cap and some of that money muscle there. It's going to be close to around 50-50, but you don't have to be very precise. Now I'll cut these both into chunks that are suitable for the grinder, and then I'll pop them in the freezer for a little while to get them firmed up. While that meat is chilling out in the freezer, I've gone ahead and weighed up my spices for this sausage today. And this one is kind of a mishmash of some very old andouille recipes I've found, and I've added just a touch of my own flair because that's why I do this. Traditional andouille is simply a garlic and pepper flavored sausage, so the seasonings are very simple. And I am doing a 5-pound batch of this today, but as usual I'm going to be using metric measurements because I weigh everything, but I'll put the cups and spoons conversion in the recipe below, and I'll also put in the percentage recipe for the real sausage heads out there. Well, my 5 pounds of pork weighs 2,268 grams, and this is a fairly low salt recipe, calling for only 1.5%. So this is 34 grams of some plain salt. I've got 7.5 grams of some coarse ground black pepper, and the same amount, 7.5 grams of cayenne pepper. And I'm going to be using fresh garlic today, and I'm going to put in 1 kind of medium-sized clove of garlic for every pound of meat. And if you want to kind of round that to the metric system, I'll be putting in, 2.5 or so cloves for every kilogram. But it's not something I'm going to be real precise with. I think that's going to be pretty garlicky at that rate, and I'm a garlic lover, so that's fine with me. But go ahead and adjust that as you see fit. And I'm gonna need a little bit of cure, so this is 6 grams of pink salt number 1, also known as Prague powder number 1. I'm pretty sure you'll find these ingredients in every old recipe out there, and there are some that add in a little thyme and maybe a couple of other spices, but these are pretty much always gonna be there. Some of the recipes add in some water to help with mixing, and some of the recipes do not, but I am going to add in a nice hoppy beer to help mix that. And I'm going to put in 100 milliliters of this. That's about 1/3 of a 12-ounce can. And for my own twist on this classic recipe, I want my sausage to be kind of a reddish orange color all the way through. And I could do that by adding a bunch of paprika to it, but that would also change the flavor profile, so I'm not gonna do that. Instead, I'm gonna add some annatto Now, if you're not familiar with annatto, it's a little red seed that's used to color all kinds of foods. Cheddar cheese comes to mind right off the top of my head. But it doesn't have a ton of flavor. You can get the actual seeds and grind them up. This is some annatto paste called Achiote. Find this in the Latin section of your grocery market. And I'll just cut a little piece of this and I will blend it with the garlic and the beer, and that should give my sausage a little bit of that red coloring. Now, if you're going to use this paste, you will want to blend it with a blender, otherwise it will stay pretty clumpy and it won't spread out nicely through the sausage. And of course, the annatto is completely optional. I'm only putting it in there for the aesthetics, and I'm not going to use enough of it that it's going to change the flavor at all. You may notice that this recipe also has no binder in it. Normally, I'll throw in some non-fat powdered milk for binder, but since none of the recipes I found call for any binder, I'm going to go ahead and trust that. I'm going to leave it out, but I am going to mix the heck out of this stuff until it gets really nice and sticky, and that should give it some nice binding on its own. I'll get my salt and pepper mixed together. And I'll throw the rest of my ingredients into the blender, and then we'll grind up some meat. Alright, we are ready to grind, and it's very exciting because I'm trying out a new grinder for the first time today. Now, like I said, I'm going to be doing 2 different grinds on this one. I want those leaner pieces to be ground into big chunks, not even really ground, just kind of chunked up into 1/2 inch or better cubes. Honestly, doing a batch this size, I could do it really quickly and easily with just a knife. But since I'm trying out the new grinder, I'm going to run that through the kidney plate and see how it looks. And I could touch it up with a knife if I need to. The fattier bits I'm running through the smaller plate. This is a 4.5 millimeter plate. And that's going to be down in there. That's going to kind of hold all those big chunks together. And my meat is partially frozen now, and the grinder parts have been in the freezer as well. So let's fire this thing up and see how we do. Normally, I would put this stuff in my manual mixer and crank it around real good, but I recently picked up this machine, so I thought I'd give it a shot on some sausage. I really didn't have a need for a behemoth stand mixer when I picked this thing up, but it was a really good deal, and I just think it's super cool. And if I ever need to whip up 15 loaves of bread at once, I'm all set. Spices down in there. Now I want to make sure that I've mixed that enough so it's nice and sticky and shaggy. Oh yeah, it already is. That took maybe 3 minutes tops. Whew, this thing's got some serious torque. I love it. And now, this goes out into the refrigerator to let that cure work its magic, and we'll be back here bright and early to crank this one out.
The next morning.
We are extra early on another beautiful sausage Sunday, and I'm getting a real early start because this is gonna be a long smoked sausage. Now this has been in the refrigerator for the better part of a day, so that cure has done its thing, and now is the time when I can grab a little test piece out and fry that up and check it for seasoning. Looks pretty good. Well, that has got a lot of garlic flavor, but that is exactly what I wanted. And it's got just a little bit of bite from the cayenne. I could have turned that up for my own personal taste, but it's very good where it is, and I cannot wait to get some smoke on this. This is meant to be a more girthy sausage than those that I make with hog casings, so today I'm using these natural beef middles. And these are 50 to 60 millimeters, and I think those hog casings that I use are generally right around 30. Now, these are packed in salt, and whew, they give off quite a strong aroma. So these need to be rinsed inside and out, and then I'll soak them in some lukewarm water for about 10 minutes before I get started. Our casings are ready to go. Everybody's here, so now it's time to lock and load and crank out this Cajun coil.
How they doing? Great. They're just a sweating up a storm, I guarantee.
And now it's time for a good hang here in the sausage closet. These are some big sloppy dogs, so I want to get those casings nice and dry. I've got actually a couple of different fans going in here today. So we'll give these lots of air, let them hang here for an hour or so until those casings start to dry out. Then we'll move them out to the smoker to finish drying. Now I've moved these out to a just warm smoker. I'm doing around 110 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm not started the smoke yet. I just want to get those casings really nice and dry, and I did have it pretty warm in the sausage closet, so it shouldn't take very long, maybe 30 minutes up to an hour, and those should be good and dry. And once they're nice and dry, then I'll start the smoke, and I'm using pecan wood today because that's the traditional smoke used with andouille. And I'll start them off at around 130 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. And this is going to be a long smoke. I'm going to do 8 hours on this. I'll start down at 130 to 140, and I'll give that 4 hours. Then I'll raise it up to 150, give it another 4 hours, and then I'll raise it to the finishing temperature of 180 to 190 degrees, and finish them off to an internal temperature of 155 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, all that low and slow smoking is going to make those casings just as tough as old boot leather, but that's all right because we're not going to eat the casings. We're going to cut that off of there when we go to use this sausage. And it is wintertime out here, so the days are very short, and these are going to be done long after it's dark, but I'll try and pop out here one last time just before it gets dark so we can see how we're doing. Here we are real quickly. This is 6 hours into the smoking. We're getting some color, but I want these to get a lot darker, so I'm probably going to leave these in here for another 4 hours in that smoke. Get them nice and dark, and then I'll bump that temperature up to 180 or 190, and I'll finish these guys off. But it's just about to get dark out here, so this is the last we're going to see of these until they're done. So here we are back in the sausage closet after a long day of smoking these sausages. I think we ended up getting about 15 hours total in on these. So I brought them up to that internal temperature of 155 degrees Fahrenheit, and then one of the recipes that I was looking at while I was researching this specified to not drop these in a water bath. So I just opened up the smoker and let it air out real quick. It's pretty cold outside, so they did cool off pretty quickly. I think that helped them dry out just a little bit more. And now they do look and smell pretty good. I think I want them to be a little drier still. So I'm just going to let them hang out here in the sausage closet for another day or two and get those to firm up a bit more. But they do look and smell great. So I'm pretty excited to try these out. And now it is finally time to see how we did. I let these hang in the sausage closet. They're at room temperature for a couple of days, and then I just left them in the refrigerator uncovered for probably another 5 days and let those really dry out a little more. It's very firm now, so let's take a look inside. Alright, check out the grain. It's pretty good, but the next batch I do, I think I'll go with even more of those big chunks of meat. Even though you can see a lot of them in there. Nice meaty bits and the fatty bits. And that color came out real nice too. It's got that little orange tint all the way through. I can tell you, the smell of the garlic and the smoke is robust. Now, like I said earlier, this casing is going to be too tough to eat, so I'm going to peel some of this off of here before I try this out. Check out that bite. Smoky, spicy, and oh wait, that garlic, oh man, it's got a ton of garlic flavor, and that's just fine with me. Normally, this isn't a sausage you're gonna eat on its own just like this, or grill and toss on a bun. But I also have a recipe for that type of sausage on the channel if you want to give that one a try. This type of andouille is mostly going to be used as flavor in other dishes where that strong garlic flavor is going to have a chance to spread all around. I use this to flavor my beans, my collard greens, and all types of soups and stews. Dishes that are going to cook for a while and pull a lot of the great flavor from this sausage. And I haven't tried it yet, but I'm willing to bet that thin slices of this are gonna be excellent on a pizza. Simple ingredients, exceptional flavor. I love this meat stick, and I hope you try it, and I know you'll love it too. Thanks for watching. what am I gonna make first?